I'm here with Jessica, so engagement editor for The Correspondent. How are you?
Yes, very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
No worries. So basically, I'm extremely passionate about your magazine. So antidote to the daily grind, and it's basically you have experts in each field and they write the pieces.
Yeah, so we work with what we call the beat system for correspondent. It's going back to an age-old system where each correspondent in the organisation is either obsessed with a particular area, like Quartz talks about obsessions a lot, or they're passionate about a particular area, or they're experts in a particular area. So we have, for example, an ageing correspondent, we have a climate change and energy correspondent, we have social development and conflict, and the idea is that you can look and report really deeply on these issues, but most importantly those beats are self-defined, so the correspondents themselves choose their area of expertise, and they really build a community around that, a shared knowledge community, and focus on reporting on the big foundational changes. We basically don't deal in breaking news.
Yeah. And giving a voice to those that know their field area, what's the response been like? Because I heard that it was crowdfunded in record-breaking time.
Yeah, they launched the platform with a crowdfunding campaign in 2013, and they raised around $1.7 million from about 20,000 backers. So these members, that we are completely ad-free, we're supported solely by members, and we're now up to around 60,000. You asked what the response has been. The response has been really something that it's grown over time. The way we work with members has evolved over time, and now really everything that we do, our journalism, we're always thinking about how we can work with members. It's not a question of should we work with members on this story, it's how do we bring them into this story. And the research we've been doing with New York University over the last few months about what our members think and feel and why they support us, they feel that this is a really unique way to engage with media, to have this kind of continuous conversation, and it's the thing that they really value. So it's the reason they back us.
And why do you think news membership is so important?
I think it really speaks to the trust crisis that we've seen developing in the news industry. There's countless surveys that show that we're below estate agents, politicians, bankers. My colleague Micah referred to us as being in the losers club of professions earlier as journalists, and that's a real shame because what we do is critically important, not only for informing people but for democratic decision making. So membership really speaks to this idea that this should be a collaborative effort, but also this idea that the journalist isn't all seeing, all knowing. That age really feels like it's past, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but this idea that my members or my readers know more than I do, and that's something that journalists have often said over the years. We've really built our model around that.
Yeah. And you allow debates in your comment section, because then that can spark conversation and engage the community even further, yeah?
Yeah, we've tried. The comment section gets a really bad rap in general, or has done in years gone by. First of all, we don't call it a comment section, we call it a contribution section, which sounds like a minor tweak, but the idea is that you're not commenting on something, you're contributing to.
Yes.
And we think that really helps to raise the game for contribution, so people actually thinking about what they're about to write there. Our correspondents, it's part of their responsibility alongside their reporting duties to engage in that conversation. So they, if say a member says, I've read your piece and I really disagree because my experience in this field shows X, we don't shy away from that kind of criticism, or we don't shy away from that kind of conversation, and the correspondent will go back in and have a discussion there. They're really present, and we also invite other experts in. So we did some stories on polio vaccines recently, and we made sure that we had immunologists in the contribution section. So while we don't have moderators in the way that has traditionally happened across lots of different websites, where the debate is moderated by people with expert knowledge, so they kind of perform two functions in that sense. And again, it really helps to raise the game in the contributions. Yeah,
and so you make sure that they are verified, they are in fact experts, and that is how you further engage your community, really, because you build a community through your newspaper.
Yeah, that's right. So it's online. It's an online platform. So that happens. It happens online. That conversation, but there are other ways we try to do it offline as well. So we have members, if we appeal for help, for example, do we need help with cleaning up data sets, for example? Do we need a particular type of academic expert to come and just explain a certain issue to us? They might come to the newsroom, they might spend time with us. Our correspondents all spend time going out to conferences that are relevant to them, to speak with people, to tell their story one-on-one, which is a very different experience. And we have a publishing business as well, so we publish books written by our journalists as an extension of our journalism. So we have different ways in which we can reach out beyond just the platform that we built.
Yeah, that's incredible. And looking towards the future, you're expanding to New York.
Well, we're expanding into the English language. So initially our base will be in the States, and the US represents the biggest English language market for media. So that will be our focus to begin with. But the idea is to build a globally focused, sounds like an oxymoron, but a platform that really considers issues in a global fashion and speaks to English language communities around the world. So it won't just be focused in the US, but that will be a big starting point for us.
And where do you think news will be developing in the next 5 years or so? What direction?
Oh gosh, what a question. I think what's really interesting as far as revenue models is concerned. So obviously we're majority member supported, we're completely ad free. But I think what we're seeing a lot of experimentation around revenue streams. And I think really, which is a good thing, people have stopped looking for the silver bullet. There's going to be no one thing, but it will be a combination of events and membership fees. There might be some advertising or advertorial content. So I think that's really interesting. Just being here today, listening to ideas around voice-activated devices in news, constant shifts in live video. I think those sorts of innovations are moving at such a pace, it's really hard to know where it's going to go in 5 years. But I think as far as finding ways for news to be supported, I hope that we'll see a much closer connection with the audience, and whether they're members or whether they're users or whether they're readers, seeing them have a much bigger say and getting a lot closer to journalists to really fix that trust problem.
Oh, and finally, last question. So, Correspondent is based in the Netherlands, and you live in Amsterdam. What's it like? Because the canals are beautiful.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's a really wonderful city to live in. The canals froze over this weekend and people were skating, so that was really a sight to see. It's been really great from a journalism point of view. When I moved there, there's a lot of innovation going on there, a lot of really interesting journalism startups, and also the legacy players there. So that was a really great revelation to me, because it wasn't something other than Correspondent and Blendle. It wasn't something that I was aware of. So, but it's a fantastic city. There's so much art, there's so much culture, and you're always on the bike, so you're always outside.
How's cycling?
So yeah, it's pretty scary when you first get there. They don't stop for anyone. But no, I feel like I sort of ring my bell at the tourists with the best with them,
nice.
with the best of them. So yeah, it's a fantastic city, and yeah, I'd really recommend it in terms of quality of life and just lots of creativity. The creative industries there are really interesting.